Well, welcome to the Anthony's Episcopal Conference Facebook Live. And today we have with us Bishop Robert Llanos of the Diocese of St Johns Basset. Welcome, Bishop, to our Facebook Live.
Thank you, Don.
Great to have you. So the name of your diocese is St Johns Basset. For the sake of our listeners, why this double name, St Johns Basset? And tell us also, give our listeners an idea, a pictorial idea of how many islands make up the diocese of St Johns Basset.
Okay, well, first of all, the Diocese of St Johns Basset consists of 5 different countries and 7 islands. Now, when I say 7 islands, I'm not including the 165 other British Virgin Islands that the people don't really settle on. But, you know, wow. essentially we are on 7 of the islands, and they make up 5 different countries. And those countries are Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, Anguilla, and the British Virgin Islands of Tortola and Virgin Gorda. Now, the reason for the hyphenated diocesan name St. Johns Basset is that, of course, St. John's is the city of Antigua and Barbuda, the main city. So, you know, your diocese is named after the main city. Now, Basseterre, which is the main city and town of St. Kitts, Nevis, joined the diocese about something like around 20 years after the original diocese was formed. And so when incorporating it, St. Kitts as part of the, and Nevis as part of the diocese, we established a co-cathedral there in St. Kitts, because they had a cathedral before. So we made it a co-cathedral, and then the diocese took the name of both cities. So that's why it's St. Johns Basset, because Basset is the main city of St. Kitts Nevis, where we have a co-cathedral. Yeah. Great.
You mentioned one of the countries and islands of the diocese is Montserrat, and if I do recall, in the 1990s, they too had experienced an eruption of a volcano in Montserrat. I'm sure that the people there are in solidarity or understand what the people of St. Vincent are going through. Any sense of how the people are showing solidarity with the people of St. Vincent?
Well, I mean, all of our parish priests have decided that the parishioners will contribute something towards helping St. Vincent. I imagine the people of Montserrat, of all the islands we have, are most understanding of the experience. Because as you know, Montserrat now, the populated part of the island now is only the north part of the island. The entire south of the island is cut off from inhabitation, so that nobody can live there. You know? Right. So the whole country has literally moved to the north, which is the hillier part of the island, you know, that has been the experience of the people. So the population there in Montserrat now is approximately 5,000 people. You know, which is about maybe, I don't know, maybe 20% of what it was prior to the eruption. The majority of people went to England, migrated to England and other Caribbean islands, including Antigua and Barbuda, to settle down and live. We have quite a number of Montserratans here involved in the Catholic Church, and you know, very, very supportive and helpful. So they have a portion of about 5,000. What's unique about Montserrat is that for 1 week in the year, the population almost doubles. That's the Feast of St. Patrick's, because it was at one time a heavily Irish settled island. You know, the history is that the British didn't want the Irish scattered across their islands in the Caribbean. So I don't remember the year, but at some point in time, the British government at the time decided that they will gather all the Irish and put them in one place, and it happened to be Montserrat. So that's why it's heavily Irish in its heritage. And so once a year in the Feast of St. Patrick's, it's a 1-week celebration, and many people, British people, Irish people, and descendants of the original families come back to Montserrat, and many of the locals here too go to Montserrat for the festivals, you know. So the population doubles from 5,000 to just about 10,000 for 1 week.
Well, thanks for that historical background on the island of Montserrat.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Bishop, it's now been a little over a year, perhaps a year and 2 months. The pandemic has really plagued the Caribbean, the region, and the world. And of course, your diocese is not an exception. Share with our listeners, the diocese has been coping with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, like everywhere else, we've had the problem of periods where the cases rise dramatically and then drop. And the governments remember, it's 5 different countries I have in the diocese. So they all more or less, they have very varied approaches and responses depending on what's happening. So for instance, Anguilla really have not had any cases at all, but they've been very strict with their lockdown. When I say lockdown, they're very strict with their borders, locking down their borders. Montserrat, because of the St. Patrick's celebration last year, which they tried to limit considerably, but which some people still went ahead and tried to participate in it. There was a surge there at one point in time because of the St. Patrick's festivities, which were cut down considerably by the government. So we get all kinds of different responses. At one time last year, from March, I would say March maybe to June, early June, the majority of the diocese was shut down. All of our churches, and that was in all the islands. That's when we had the first phase, the first phase of the virus. And we, like every other country in the Caribbean, and I suppose many in the world, we had to suffer the same issues of closing down the city, closing down all the bars, hotels, restaurants, gyms, the normal stuff. And we kept just the groceries and pharmacies and gas stations open. And twice for the year, we had some very strict lockdowns, only 5 hours a day people were allowed out of their houses, to go to the grocery or pharmacy or whatever. So that was mostly last year, in the first half of the year of the pandemic. Since then, things have relaxed a little bit at various stages in the different islands. St. Kitts has been pretty strict too for a while. They've pretty much opened up a lot now. Montserrat as well, the Tortola and Virgin Gorda, still very strict. Antigua and Barbuda still very strict, and Anguilla is still locked down. It is still not allowing people in, But the population, let me talk about, but the people have, I suppose everywhere in the world, the people have a certain resilience about them, and people find ways to cope with the difficulties that ensue. A big problem for us, of course, is that many people lose their jobs, and if not their jobs completely, lost a lot of income from their jobs, because the majority of our economic activities surrounds tourism. And of course, the whole world is shut down in that respect, in terms of no flights shut down, no ships allowed to come in, because we have, during the tourist season from November to April, every year we have, the cruise ships coming in, many ships, and 4 ships a day every week. And none of that has been allowed to happen, obviously. The airlines are not bringing in any people, very few. So what some of the hotels have been allowed to do is that they bring in their tourists, and they go straight from the airport to their facility, to the hotel, but they can't move around the island. Their stay is limited to the facility that they're going to, and they spend a week and then go back. So that has been allowed to happen at some level. It's not in a big way. The consequence of which is a lot of people are financially very, very are finding themselves in very difficult financial situations. So we have tried our best to see how we can help. The normal stuff that you see happening everywhere, providing food packages and foodstuffs and so on for those who are struggling, helping some people pay their school fees. That's another major problem we've had. All our Catholic schools are private schools, and therefore people have no income. They can't pay their school fees. And if they can't pay the school fees, then our schools are in trouble because we can't pay the teachers. You understand? So it's a difficult economic situation, I think, more than anything else. In terms of coping with the virus itself, there was one period of time in February this year where at least the hospital here in Antigua was becoming crowded, and the situation was becoming a little bit delicate in terms of being able to help those with the COVID-19. So that's why we had another shutdown. We had another shutdown for a while, I think about 3 weeks to a month, a full shutdown, which brought it back down again. So right now we're just sort of managing the cases as they are. There's no surge right now. And so the government has been very, very vigilant, I have to say here. We have had our vaccines, so we got in, I think, 31,000 vaccines about a month or two ago, and that has been distributed. So, I think, and St. Kitts have had their vaccinations as well. St. Kitts and Nevis, Tortola's had their vaccinations as well, and Virgin Gorda. Anguilla, I am not sure what's happening in Anguilla, but the other islands seem to be well on track in terms of vaccinations. So the big issue really for me is right now and will be the economic fallout. As the longer this thing goes on, is the worse it gets for us, because tourism is our main income earner.
So certainly the disaster has been clearly part and parcel of these islands. The disaster, the hurricane several years ago, the COVID disaster that has truly, as you said, impacted the lives of the people socially, economically. And in this context, we read Catholic news recently here in Trinidad that the Cathedral Parish, so the diocese, has erected a Marian grotto. Before you go into, tell us about the grotto itself, but most of all, how does the Marian devotion help the people spiritually to cope with all these disasters?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a tricky question here in this particular diocese, because this diocese is not is in what will be commonly referred to as a Protestant country. Most of the British islands in historically Protestant countries. So the Catholics here are a minority. And the issue of Marian devotions is a sensitive thing. I came here and I found it maybe a little beyond just a sensitive thing. I thought it was really being attacked in a big way. So part of what I've done in the diocese is to emphasize what is Catholic, so it's not in any way an attack on anybody else's religion or beliefs, but it's just to reaffirm and to challenge our Catholic parishioners and so on to understand clearly and to feel comfortable with their Marian devotions. Like we had problems in our Catholic schools with that, and because the majority of students are not Catholic, that type of thing, and because of course many of our Catholics over the years are converts from the other Christian faiths, some of which, not all, some of which have an aversion to the Blessed Virgin Mary, particularly, as you know, the Pentecostal churches and that grouping, and they're very vociferous. So I determined that it's a good thing and a healthy thing for us to have a proper devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary as part of our Catholic tradition.
Right.
So I'm taking steps to make that happen, to increase the visibility of our Marian feast during the year, a lot of which was quite low-key actually when I came, you know. And so, but the Marian Grotto really has its own history, if you wish. So the new Marian Grotto that was just set up was, in fact, it started off with a family, a business family whose, I think, the parents had died, and the son found this Our Lady of Lourdes carving a statue inside of a wooden thing with glass and a little shrine sort of thing, and brought it to the cathedral and offered it to the director of the cathedral, who accepted it. And then he discussed it with me, so, you know, what would we do with this? And the decision was, well, maybe we should put so I suggested actually to Father George Williams, who's the rector of the cathedral, let's put this Marian little grotto facing the hospital, the general hospital across the road, where all the sick people have to go, where people are there anxious and, you know, afraid for their loved ones and the illness. And, you know, Our Lady of Lourdes is the healer of all healers in terms of, you know, in the Catholic Church history. So I said, you know, maybe this would be a good thing to encourage people to come and pray for the healing of their family members and so on, even if they're not Catholic, you know, whatever. So that's how it started. And then somewhere along the line, there was a conversation between the rector and another member of another family whose aunt was deceased, and she was the wife of the Syrian and the ambassador to Syria here in the island. Her name is Lady Afaf Hadi. So she died last year, and the family wanted to do something in the church as a memorial of honor of her life. So they offered to build the grotto, and then it just took off from there. So as it turned out, the grotto that was what it might have been seen on Facebook, it was blessed last week. That was the 1-year anniversary of the death of Lady Afaf Hadi. So we erected this. Several people came on board, and, you know, a group of us with all our different ideas came on board, and what the grotto is a result of our efforts, which I think is quite a beautiful grotto. So it's there so that, and we're starting devotions at the grotto this coming week, every Wednesday for the month of May. You know, so we'll start devotions at the grotto. Even though it's a month of Fatima, we also have a Fatima grotto on another side of the cathedral compound, which will also be, there will also be devotions there on a Thursday. So yeah.
We definitely know that Our Lady of Lourdes and Our Lady of Fatima would not be fighting or competing.
No, they won't be. No,
but certainly will be collaborating and interceding certainly for the diocese. And we know that the diocese has some other pastoral initiatives coming on board. So as we bring this conversation to closure, share with our listeners some of the new pastoral initiatives that the diocese is hoping to bring on board, one of which we're told is communications.
Okay, well, as you may know, that this is our 50th anniversary year. This year we celebrated our 50 years as a diocese, of the founding of the diocese, which previously came under the Diocese of Rousseau in Dominica. So we are celebrating our 50th anniversary now, and part of our 50th anniversary process or push is that, first of all, we want to move our diocese into really living out missionary discipleship. So for this year, we have produced a document on missionary discipleship for the diocese. It's called the Pastoral Exhortation 2020. It was published at the end of last year. Because our celebration, our year, by the way, although the actual anniversary was in January this year, our year of celebration was from Pentecost last year to Pentecost this year. That's the year, 50th anniversary year. So this is why this was launched last year in 2020, the Pastoral Exhortation 2020. And its whole thrust is to move the diocese, the whole diocese, into a sense of missionary discipleship. And we're going to work on this over, so that's our 5-year plan. That's our next 5-year plan, using the document over that period of time, the 5 years. And so part of that thrust will require, of course, good communications. So other than the other projects we have going, the big thing for us was, for me and for the diocese, is to get our communications systems up and running in a big way. So for instance, we'll be launching our website. We're supposed to be launching our website on Pentecost Sunday. We will also be introducing our new diocesan media communications team, which we just put together in the last couple of weeks. We have a very knowledgeable and solid group of people. So we're doing a lot of work now, upgrading the equipment in our radio station. And I'm really looking forward to where we are going with this. The equipment has been ordered and paid for already. We're just waiting on it to come in for us to set it up. Part of which our radio station will have an app, the app to be able to, people can get the radio station on their cell phones in all the islands. You see, right now, the radio station can only be received on half of St. Kitts and part of Nevis, and other people beyond that can't get it. So this will allow everybody in the diocese to be able to access our radio station, which is a 24-hour radio station. It's been running for 30 years. It's 17 years, and we have never stopped running. So, but we want to enhance its capabilities now. So we are doing a lot of upgrading of the equipment and so on. We're also developing some new programs that to put back on the radio station now and to widen its scope. So that has been determined already, and that will be starting immediately. And then for the audiovisual section, we have renovated a audiovisual room for filming and interviewing and so on. So that is already done. We have just discussed recently what equipment we will need to acquire to get that going. We've appointed people who are experts in the field, to all Catholics, to come forward, and they come forward as a team. And so we have a really good, so far, it includes, of course, 4 or 5 of our youth and young adult members some of who were trained with the Cygnus program a couple of years ago. So all of that we're pulling together now. And we intend to really produce information program, a 5-minute information program to be played on the screens in our churches 5 minutes before Mass. So it'll just be once a month. So the whole diocese will know what's going on in all the islands. So every month will be a different island, and we just we keep going around and around until we cover everybody. And so we're really looking forward to the progress of this. So we're producing different programs here in Antigua and Barbuda, and I've already arranged with the Co-Cathedral in St. Kitts to do the same. So they have already identified a studio there as well, and we are working on getting a license there. So we will be able to have a relay. What we do here in Antigua can be relayed and repeated and relayed in St. Kitts. Now, once St. Kitts sets up their station, that will reach the whole of St. Kitts and Nevis and Anguilla and Montserrat, you see. So we will be able to repeat, and then we'll have the whole diocese with one radio station and an audiovisual unit that produces documentaries and information and so on. I think that's pretty much where we have reached so far.
Great.
So we're working in it.
Great. Well, clearly, evangelization and communication seem to be like 2 wings of a bird that the diocese is taking on, and hopefully with evangelization and communication, the diocese will continue to soar to great. So we want.
But we'll try to grow into what we should be.
Well, Bishop, I'd really like to thank you for sharing with us on Facebook Live on what's happening in the Diocese of St Johns Basset. And we in the Antilles Episcopal Conference and the wider Caribbean continue to pray that your pastoral initiative in evangelization and communication will enable the diocese to soar. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. It's wonderful to be here and to share with all my Caribbean brothers and sisters in the AEC region.
God bless you, Bishop.
God bless. Thank you.